All right, this is at THS Mr. Jones, and we're going to talk about chapter 1.3. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with some video questions here. So what are the steps to solving a quadratic? These are 1.3 video questions. What are the steps to solving a quadratic? What is a quadratic equation? What do you add to both sides when completing a square? And we will have a fourth one, which will be throughout the video somewhere. Go ahead and pause and write down the suggested problems here, starting on page 126. All right, chapter 1.3 talks about quadratic equations. Now, what is a quadratic equation? Well, a quadratic equation is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and a cannot be 0. It can be any other number. B and c could be 0 if you want. Now, really, a quadratic equation is any equation in which the degree is 2. Okay, so meaning that the highest exponent on your variable is a 2. Just like linear, the highest exponent we had was a 1. With a quadratic, the highest exponent we have will be a 2. Now, how to solve these? There are 3 methods that we're going to talk about in solving these. Method 1 is factoring, okay, which we've done some factoring before, so that will be really helpful in this. Method 2 is completing the square. Okay, this is probably my least favorite method, but because factoring doesn't always work, completing the square does. And number 3, which is the one you will probably use most often, is the quadratic formula. Okay. Now, in class, I'll be going over all types of problems on how to do this. This video is just for all the writing. So how to solve by factoring. Okay, so we're going to talk about the steps in solving by factoring. So step 1 is set equal to 0. That means get everything on one side. Step 2 is factor. Okay, and when you factor a quadratic, you will have 2 terms. Okay, step 3 is set factors equal to 0, and 4 is to solve. Okay, so you're going to take these 2 factors and you'll say this factor equals 0, this factor equals 0, and in step 4 you're going to solve each one of those equations. So we will have 2 answers. Why will we have 2 answers? Well, because our highest exponent was a 2, meaning we will have 2 answers. Okay, completing the square steps. Okay, so step 1 in completing the square, get x's on one side. Okay, so you're going to have your x's on one side and you'll have your constant on the other. So these will be on one side and this c term, your constant, will be on the other side. Step 2, add b over 2 squared to both sides. Okay, and when I do an example in class, that b divided by 2 squared will make a lot more sense. Okay, step 3, you will factor left side, and you will simplify right side. Number 4 is really you solve, and we're going to solve by square root. Okay, and what I mean by that is you will have something that might look like this. Let's say x plus 4 squared equals 19. And you will solve that by square root. So we'll take the square root of both sides. We'll get x plus 4 equals plus minus radical 19. And then we'll subtract 4. So x equals negative 4 plus minus radical 19. That would be your answer. So that's what I mean by solve by square root. And I'll talk more in class about where the plus minus came from, and I thought you said we were going to have 2 answers. I'll explain more of that in class. So quadratic formula, the steps for a quadratic formula. So step 1 is set equal to 0. Again, just like factoring, your first step is going to be set equal to 0. Step 2, note A equals, B equals, C equals. So remember we had A, B, C here. So you just need to note what each one of those are. Step 3 will be to plug into formula. And step 4, reduce. And that leads to question number 4 is the quadratic formula. Okay, so what's a quadratic formula? I'm not going to tell you. You should either know or just do a quick Google search of it and you'll find out. You will know it by the time you leave my class. Okay. All right, so then you reduce and you'll have your 2 solutions. What is the discriminant? Okay, we'll talk a little bit about this in class. Okay, the discriminant helps you find out what kind of solutions you will have. And the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Okay, that's the discriminant. So again, we know what a, b, and c are. We can plug them into this. Now, if this value is greater than 0, okay, you will have 2 real solutions. If it is equal to 0, 1 real solution. Okay, with multiplicity of 2, meaning it appears twice. If that value is less than 0, you will have 2 complex solutions. So 2 complex solutions. This will be really good true-false questions or multiple choice. It could be true-false. This quadratic equation has 1 real solution or something like that. So really know what the discriminant is. it will also help us later on in figuring out what am I really looking for. There were also some word problems here that we'll take a look at in class, and then we will really get into solving quadratics. I will go ahead and link the extra example video right in there somewhere. Okay, I'll link that if you want to watch the examples. But this is it for chapter 1.3. Again, if you didn't get the questions or the suggested problems, go back to the beginning of this video. As always, this is @THS Mr. Jones signing off.